Look at the London Independent today. The man who conned the world, bankers, billionaires, charities, and film stars. Oh, what are charities doing? Investing the charity money in the derivatives market. Bankers, billionaires, charities, and film stars are among the victims of the 50 billion fraudster. Now, I have reports saying it's 100 billion. This article says 50 billion, whose exposure deals a fresh blow to financial confidence, according to one tycoon facing a $9 billion loss alone. Oh, there's tycoons out there that are facing $9 billion losses just in one investment alone? But they tell us Bill Gates, only worth about $40 billion now, because he gave half his money to eugenics, is the richest man. He is not the richest man. There were people with billions of dollars 100 years ago. The fallout from the arrest of Wall Street grandee Bernard Madoff was continuing to grow last night as institution after institution detailed the extent of their possible losses, and the victims of the UK were headlined by the HSBC and the Royal Bank of Scotland, which is majority owned by the British government. That's not true. It's really owned by the private Bank of England. The charity set up by the Hollywood director Steven Spielberg was among those revealed to be among the victims. Again, he does that to be tax-free. Those aren't really charities. With a foundation set up by Mort Zuckerman, one of the richest media and property magnates in the United States, dozens of Jewish organizations, sports teams owners, and New Jersey senator. But the biggest confessions were coming from Wall Street, from the City of London, and from the headquarters of European banks, and from banks around the world. They have poured billions of dollars into his too-good-to-be-true investment fund, which appeared to be double-digit annual returns come rain or shine. And Japanese banks, Chinese banks, Arab banks, they all invested. Now, that's all that's happening with Goldman Sachs. That's all that's happening with Bear Stearns. That's what's happening with Citibank. That's what's happening with all. That's what they do. That's what they do. They take other people's investment money and then they leverage it out with fractional reserve banking. That's what Bill Clinton did and that Bush expanded. But in the late 90s, they repealed the Glass-Steagall Act and other laws saying that private brokerage firms could engage in fractional reserve banking. If you invest $1 with their mutual fund, they take that and don't tell you the mutual fund is derivatives, and they take it and then they loan out the debt over and over again. They take people's mortgages and then package them and sell them as a AAA rated gold. I mean, there's hundreds of different vehicles that they're doing this with. The point is, it's a total and complete Ponzi scheme, and guess who gets left holding the bag? These financial institutions, while the money is still seen as valuable before the Ponzi scheme is imploded, which they by themselves, by design, imploded, they then buy real assets, then they tell you that it was a Ponzi scheme, they blame some mid-level minion, and then the very same institutions that engineered all of this pose as our saviors, go to Congress 8.5 weeks ago now and say, you've got to give us total power to buy these subprime mortgages. They caused it all. Anybody with half a brain could look at it and know it wasn't the subprime mortgages. It was the derivatives. The subprime mortgage securities being a small part of, in the tens of trillions of dollars. Well, the derivatives are 1,500 trillion, 1.5 quadrillion. And then they didn't take that money while it still had value, and they buy real assets, and then they leave you and me and everybody else holding the bag as the taxpayer, and they say, oh, the taxpayer will guarantee all of this. But in truth, they know the Ponzi scheme's so big, no amount, 100 trillion, 200 trillion, 300 trillion, 400 trillion, 500 trillion, 600 trillion. No amount of money could ever fix this. And so the next part of the Ponzi scheme is the scam selling the public that they've got to, quote, bail this out, when that is just another level of the Ponzi scheme. And they've now taken the 8.5 trillion, and we haven't found out in almost 2 weeks what the latest numbers are going to be. That's the old number of 8.5 trillion. And they're actually taking that, they're letting the institutions fail, and they're taking that money and then leveraging it again through fractional reserve investing. Shouldn't even call it banking. So this is a military fraud operation, and now they're burning one of their mid-level people who kind of was a independent or wildcatter, kind of a cowboy out on the side doing this himself. And so now the media is blaming him for everything. First it's subprime mortgage, now it's going to be this guy, Madoff. It's just unbelievable. So for all of you out there, if they'll rip off Steven Spielberg, if they'll rip off all these big charities, if Wall Street will rip them off for now over $100 billion, and every day, it's $10 billion, then $50 billion, then $100 billion, it'll probably be, who knows, hundreds and hundreds of billions more with just this one guy's scam by the time we find out how bad it is, because he leveraged it. He engaged in fractional reserve scams, Ponzi scams. And they're now saying the taxpayers will be on the line for that. And so all these powerful charities and directors and people, they're going to end up getting some of their money back at the expense of dollar devaluation and at the expense of the American people. So I'm seeing a lot of military folks and police in military and police forums going, I'm not worried about other pension funds or teachers losing their pension funds or private industry or the automaker workers, the auto workers losing their pensions. I won't lose my pension because I work for the government. And, that's true. They have announced in Congress in the last month in a string of hearings what they're going to do. They're going to take everyone's pension fund, everyone's 401k, even if it's private. They're going to nationalize it. They are then going to devalue it and put a huge tax on it yearly, and you will receive a government check that is a fraction of what you would have gotten if your investments weren't a fraud, that you were promised and told were safe. So that's what's going to happen. And then you will also not just have a reduced amount that's paid to you. They will cheat you on cost of living and claim that inflation's only 6.2% this year, when inflation is more like 15 to 20%, headed into next year of 25 to 30% is what most of the financial analysts and economists are even saying mainstream. We were telling you 3-4 years ago that by 2010, conservatively, you'd have 20% a year compounded interest. We've been having more than 12% compounded interest for the last 5 years. That's why the standard of living has dropped so much. But again, they're going to tell you that your pension fund check, your 401k, whatever, after it's nationalized, has a cost of living of only 6-7%. And then it turns out the International Herald Tribune is reporting that another blow to the reputation of the Securities and Exchange Commission. They were warned, complaints were filed years ago about this particular Bernard L. Madoff investment securities. And they had not even gone and looked into it. Of course, this is a class of criminals. They wear suits. They're handsome. They went to Ivy League schools. They speak well. And they've taken over the country. It was Madison Avenue. It was Wall Street out of Harvard and Yale that set up, with the British, the OSS, that set up naval and army intelligence. And they set up the CIA with the National Security Act in 1947. Skull and Bones was founded, this is in the encyclopedia, by the British East India and Dutch East India Company money. The opium monopoly literally founded that as a British intelligence hive to train British intelligence operatives. This is mainstream history. Then they set up CIA out of OSS that is British intelligence. And what is their main game? Fractional reserve banking and Wall Street scams. They own the money machines. They control the regulators. They're allowed to do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want. And so that's how they've got a rigged game, and that's how they're able to buy up the world. And if a smaller company or a smaller diamond mine or silver mine or gold mine or timber company starts cutting into their business, they send in regulators and shut them down for more than 70 years.